Welcome to the Medicine Cabinet.
We'll bring you another fly episode. We have Velocity Music talking about Orrin and Anthony, saying two great guys that I look up to that have a production company where they provide music for musical artists, pop stars, rappers, singers, even instrumental artists. They do movies, you name it, they do it all. Saying when it comes to music, and they're masterminds, you know. And they have this master alliance that we kind of tap into for a second. And that was probably my favorite part of the episode. But check it out, see what they're talking about. Orrin's dropping knowledge on us, Anthony's dropping knowledge on us. We got the whole team out there. But yeah, let me know what you think. See you at the end. We have Velocity Music in the building. Well, actually in their building. Crazy shit. So we have Anthony Barfield and we got Orrin Wilson. Say what's up, y'all. What's going on?
How's it going out there, people?
Yo, what's good?
Indeed,
What's good?
indeed. And today for the host, we got TJ.
What's good?
And we got Lindsay.
What up?
Yeah, too bad Sean couldn't be here. He's going to be on the next one. Saying, what's up, Sean?
What's up, Sean?
What's up, Trevor? Thank you guys for everything. And I just want to say thank you to everybody here, saying for taking the time to do this, because I truly do appreciate it. But, all right, let's hop right into it. How did Velocity Music get started? What was the idea behind it?
Well, Velocity has been in the works for a long time. The thing is we're both classically trained musicians, and
classically
trained musicians. Yeah,
just so y'all know,
with a strong love in this urban pop music, and so I started making beats when I was 16 years old, and Orrin has been making beats, and somehow the universe just kind of put us together. In fact, my wife put us together.
Oh, shit.
Because they went to Manhattan School of Music together.
Oh, shit.
And then we were at this party together, and Elena, my wife, introduced us, and it was just like, oh, you're from the South? Oh, shit, you from the South? Okay, yeah, what's up? And
what part of the South?
I'm from Mississippi originally.
And you,
New Orleans.
No. Okay. All right.
New Orleans.
Louisiana. All right.
Yeah.
That's the real shit. I've never been down to New Orleans. I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah. But yeah, so we met up, and fast forwarding, we ended up living together for a minute, and I saw Orrin, like he was actually sitting at the kitchen table with his iPad with the Machine Studio software on it, and I was like, yo, like, what's that? And he was just like, oh man, I'm making these beats now and stuff. I'm like, what? You making beats too and stuff? So we just kind of started chopping it up, and now here we are.
What year was that?
This was the year 2012.
Yeah, was it 2012?
2012 when
yeah.
we lived together. So from
Yeah.
2012 to spring 2013, we lived together.
Yeah.
Nice in Fort Washington.
Year and a half, you said about? You said a year and a half about?
I got a whole
about
year.
a year. About a year.
And then you officially established the company in 2016?
Well, no.
Somewhere?
So basically, we just kind of started making beats here and there together, and it was funny. It wasn't really official at first. We just kept in touch and sending beats here and there and stuff, and then officially Velocity was started March the 9th of 2016.
Right.
As a corporation.
That's the birthday.
Yeah, it's the birthday.
March.
Yeah, happy birthday, Velocity.
And why that day? What's the significance of that day?
Well, Velocity Music, once again, we were talking about collabing for a long time, but I was working a full-time job at Juilliard.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where, my other duties as a composer, producer, and stuff like that, film score composer, classical composer, took over, I felt it was time to officially go full force with Velocity as a company.
So you said you started at age 16 making beats? You started making beats at 16?
Yeah.
And you started back then?
I think I was younger. I'd always been into it, but I was been a strong force of playing classical music and jazz. But I really sit down making beats. I'd say probably maybe 5 years ago. Like you said, I had the Machine Studio software.
Did you cut? Yeah, I can hear that. What's it called? It's all good. What's it called?
Native Instrument Machine. So they got the software that comes on the phone or iPad, and they got the hardware itself. So I had the Machine Studio on my phone and iPad, and I just be at the table after work, just making beats on my phone. Then Barfield actually went and brought the actual hardware itself.
But like, did you have any family members that were like DJs or anything like that, or that were into that type of stuff? Or?
Yeah, I have family members who played like instruments in high school, but it was never anything serious. I might be like one of the first like serious musicians in my family. So, like growing up in New Orleans, I mean, it's always serious musicians. But I think for me, it was a little bit more than just like, I'm going to do this for elective in middle school or high school. It was like, I probably want to do this for my life career.
All right, that's what's up. And you said you started making beats at 16.
Yeah.
And like, so it was kind of like a childhood dream, saying.
I mean, well, not really, but kind of. So essentially, you were asking about family members being musicians and stuff.
Yeah.
So I started playing the trombone, in early middle school, and I have a cousin that used to be a producer in Atlanta.
All right.
And he found out that his little cousin played the trombone, so he was just like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna send him some equipment and stuff." So he sent me like this Roland VS880 8-track recorder.
Oh shit.
And a couple other things, and I used this Casio keyboard, and I don't know if you guys remember like Band in a Box. Remember this? It was like this Macintosh computer software, Band in a Box.
No.
So I used to use that, and I'd stay up to probably 3-4 in the morning.
How old
16 years old
16.
till I graduated. Stay up to 3-4 in the morning, get up, 6:30, go to school, and be tired as shit all day. But like come back home and start making beats and practicing. But I live on a farm, so there wasn't shit to do other than just like,
You didn't do anything on the farm?
yeah. I mean, like we took cows to like the stockyard and shit to sell them off. But then when I come home, like I bush hog, like which is meaning you take the tractor and you cut the grass. Take the tractor. And
That was the phone. That's the live stream. That's the live stream. We're good.
So there.
Yo.
Mom is watching. Hey, Mom.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah, like, cut the grass with the tractor and shit, and then basically go and start making beats. Beats and tractors.
No, because like it's so funny. Like the way I was like looking at it, just as coming out from an outside perspective, I thought you were like just a classical guy, like through and through, like growing up. Because when you came to MSM, when I first met you, while I was at MSM in New York, you were playing classical trombone, and
Right.
I like most of us there, just been doing this since we were kids.
Right.
So I wasn't sure if that was just your main thing, but that's dope that you had like an early background in some of that stuff.
And also, after this point, as I was telling the squad earlier, that I also play trombone, and I am also black. But in high school, I remember I was auditioning for schools, and I literally looked at the internet, black trombone players, like, going to Juilliard College or whatever, and Anthony was like the first one that came up, and he's like played something on the news, and I was just like, oh snap, like there's other people out there doing this. So it's funny, I meet him years later.
You had some celebrity back then.
Yeah, I meet him years later in college. I'm like, yo, you that guy.
But that's very important you mentioned that, because representation is it really helps along the way when you see somebody that looks similar to you or something, saying that comes from a similar background as you. It makes you kind of believe that you can do the same things too. So
yeah, we completely agree with that. I mean, we talk about that all the time. In fact, I think this was last year, February, something like that. There was a performance in DC that we all attended. Me, you, and Chris Watkins.
Oh, yeah.
And after the concert, there was like a few African American kids that came up, and they were like, "Oh my gosh," and so we ended up talking to them and just sort of, telling our brief stories and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely very important to if anything, if you can't necessarily give back physically, I think it's important to be active on social media to make sure that young people see you, thriving in your careers, to encourage them.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. What's it called? What was next upon the list?
What did you teach when you were at Juilliard?
So I taught a class in the evening division called Advanced Music Production. It was basically a logic-based class teaching audio. But before that, I actually worked staff for a number of years. I worked as a recording engineer first, and then I was about to leave and go teach at another school. And then I got roped back into Juilliard to be the media production manager for a company called Juilliard Global Ventures, which is a company that capitalized on Juilliard as a brand. Yeah. So,
Nice.
yeah.
So when you were studying, were you studying both trombone and music production?
No. Similar stories. I mean, seriously, like you're a trumpet player too.
Yeah, so I think for
yeah.
like for me in undergrad, so I went to like this college called Southern University in Baton Rouge. It's a historical black college, and there, in marching bands, it's quite different. Like you see predominant white colleges where they do marching band, but black college bands like Grambling, Southern University. It's like it's different because you get to experience like the tradition of a historical black college, also the experience of like being like in like one of those best bands, and so most of the music we played were like pop music. So I had a lot of friends back then who were like, they had like Fruity Loops in their dorm rooms. And so, we go to band practice, come home, and whatever was popping that day was some Lil Wayne or some Master P. They would be in there making the beats to these songs. So I got opportunity to see cats like making beats on computers. And I was like always kind of fascinated. I was like, I should probably stick with playing classical music. It's like it seemed like an adventure, but I was like, I probably wouldn't be good. But as more and more I thought about it, deep down inside, like, I think I really want to do this. And so I think coming from like a classical background and then switching over to like making this form of music, I think it makes it a lot easier because now you're not learning music, you're like learning the efficiency of a computer program. So I think if anyone wants to try to do it, like
you probably apply what you already know.
Yeah, that's what's really happening right now. It's not like we learn how to like write chords or write melodies. Like, okay, what does this button do in this software? And then once you learn what this button does, now you cooking.
Yeah, but it's I have to say though, to add to piggyback off that, like even though I was a composer, so I studied the trombone, studied a little composition, classical composition. Even though I was used to sort of developing classical works and stuff like that, to make that transition from classical high art to pop music, that shit is really difficult. Really difficult because
socially,
well, musically. I mean, because think about it. The thing is, it's like one of our good colleagues, Sakura Myers, actually.
So just play with her.
Oh, it's her birthday. Happy birthday, Sakura.
Oh shit.
So we had a conversation as far as how people feel music or feel art, and in high art, i.e., classical music, or if you go to the Guggenheim and see paintings, or if you go to the MoMA, whatever, like people want to feel from here up, meaning from the neck up, because they want to intellectualize what they're seeing or what they're hearing. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the world, they feel from the neck down. And so in terms of pop music production, in terms of pop and urban music production, I mean, it's like, as long as you can get people like to really groove to your music, then that's like you're doing your job. And so writing classical works, to make that transition, I remember my early beats, some of our early beats together too, the shit would be really complex. And people who... Yeah, go ahead.
No, Lindsay and I had this argument about this song, these two songs on the...
I've been waiting to bust this out.
Is this from Kendrick?
Yeah, from Kendrick Lamar album. And I think the song that I like is a neck up song. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
And I disagree. I think it's like the cheapest shot. I don't know. Like I wonder if he was worried that nothing was going to get on the radio, and he was like, "Well, this one is a guarantee to get on the radio," which he didn't have to worry about because the whole album is great. But it's the song "Love." This is the one we argue about. Chris thinks it's very deep. I think anybody could have written it and sang it. I think it was easy.
Yeah.
Oh, the pizza's here. Sorry, Facebook.
Love versus love. So, but no.
What's the apartment number? Sorry.
40.
Shit, you said too much. We gotta bleep that up. No, but what's it called? So you before we turned on the microphone, you were talking about the school, saying like that you had a part starting.
So currently, like, besides making music, I'm a full-time teacher. Teach a school called Bases Independent. It's like a private school in Washington, Northern Virginia. And they got a couple schools. So in the past, I've had opportunity to open up schools teaching music. And I think for me, a big point of teaching music is I get to see the kids that we're trying to sell the music to.
How old are the kids?
So the students that I teach are 9th graders to 12th graders.
Oh,
so
shit.
most of the kids that are listening to what's current on the radio, what's current on Spotify playlists, are the kids that I'm teaching. So it's quite interesting to see the review of kids.
Are you familiar with Jermaine Dupri's show?
Oh yes, yeah, the rap game. Yes, it's very
Are you watching this season?
Yeah, I'm watching. It's pretty good.
Who is your pick? Sorry to go on.
I don't really have a pick right now. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting to
Street
see.
Bud.
The cat's good. But I'm still waiting.
Yeah, that's my favorite one right now.
But I think like have an opportunity to teach kids, and the opportunity to see like what they like. Like parents all the time say we shouldn't be listening to rap. It's too much profanity. It's this and that. But I think every generation has that thing that their parents don't like.
Rap is here. I was down.
State.
I was down in Atlanta last Christmas, not this Christmas, but the Christmas before, and like Bad and Bougie, that was just popping off.
Amazing tune.
And then the kids, man, the way the kids were reacting to Bad and Bougie, they couldn't help themselves. They couldn't help themselves. They just kept dancing and moving, and then it made me happy to see them happy, and they knew all the words, and they were saying some bad things.
Well, that's interesting because I remember Diddy said a quote. Diddy has a quote. He's like, "You can't have like a hit without a hot track." Period.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like, so it's like not to say what the singer or rapper or whatever does is secondary, but
he said 75% of the whole thing is just the beat. That's what he said. I think 75%, something like that.
That's crazy. So and like these days you see, like hip hop when it first started, it's all about like DJ and MC, like a party and stuff. Then it's like really come a long way, now. But what do you see the producer now? Like somebody like Metro Boomin, who like or Sony Digital, or somebody who like has such like a presence. Do you feel like the producers are underrated now? Like for instance, Gucci Gang. If he would, is anybody talking? Who produces that? Be like that's not like a.
I think the producer's Big Head.
Okay.
I think the producer's the architect. When I look at music, you think about the blueprint. If you like to compare rap or pop music
it's all good. I just ignore the plug. It'll be fine.
So if you look at like a great composer,
like a hard ignore. You know what I'm saying?
So a great composer lays down a blueprint for the orchestra.
Yeah.
So I think for a producer, being an architect, he's laying down what the rapper, the singer, whoever it may be, it's like the floor plan.
Yeah.
And then once that rapper or singer gets on top of it, they take it to the next step.
Icing.
But I think the icing on the cake. But the cake, the ingredients, the spices, the sweets,
the egg,
everything that's the producer. Like when the last time you ever heard an acapella go grandma, right? It's the music. Right? And I think producers in the 21st century, I think people are now starting. I think now people are starting to see the value of producers because you see these things on YouTube, you see these things on Instagram about producers getting ripped off from like these major artists, and I think it's now a time because I think artists are starting to see like, well, if they don't give us the music, then what are we going to use?
My boy had did a P Dub saying he did a track with Fetty Wap and his homegirl named Z, and like he was telling me how it was divvied up, and like it didn't make sense to me, you know what I'm saying, for all the work he was doing, you know what I'm saying, and like I think the producer is definitely very valuable. Do you think they're more valuable than the rapper, or equal, or is it just more the experience, like the full product at the end? What's the most important thing?
Personally, I think it's about the product. Because same thing for both of us. Like I wouldn't be Anthony without Orrin and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yep, I agree.
And for somebody like, let's just say Beyonce, I like to think of Beyonce as like a corporation. You got the producers on the bottom. You got the not to say producers are like janitors or something like that, but you got the janitors. You got the people who are working at the desks. You have the CEO who is at the top, who's like being the face of that company. Who's making the moves and stuff. And you can't have the CEO without everybody else. Same thing, So I think everybody, even on the production level, I think everybody is equal, but then when it comes to payment, then that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story.
I guess money just fucks everything up. But that's what this is what you guys have said. That's what I was so excited to interview you guys, because I'm so attracted to the alliance. You know what I'm saying, and the teamwork, and because you're in DC, you're in New York, you know, but y'all are making this shit work. You know what I'm saying? And that's because you guys are fully invested and you want to do it, you know? And
But how do you manage that, the long distance relationship?
Well, it's not really really long distance, because you know, because Orrin is sort of bi-coastal, you know, not bi-coastal,
Regional.
bi-regional,
yeah, that's the word.
bi-regional. So Orrin is here, you know, how many times a month?
2 or 3.
2, 3, 4 times.
I mean, it's the 20th century. It's like phones, FaceTime, Skype. No one's really far anymore. No one's really far.
Yeah. I got a friend that likes to call me FaceTime all the time. He only calls me FaceTime.
Right.
Wow.
And I never understand why. I'm like, and like I'm not a homophobe, you know what I'm saying? But it's but it's my man's and shit. But he can't, it's just always weird that. But he always uses the excuse, yo, Chris, it's the 21st century. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's the new wave for sure.
I like to look at my friends when I talk to them. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
No, but
so that's basically how we manage, though. You know, with phone calls and FaceTime, and you know, even if one of us is out of the country or something, you know, we still FaceTime and stuff. Or, you know, but back to this alliance thing. I just want to stop on that for a second.
Important word.
The Mastermind Alliance. So we talk about this all the time. There's a thinker, philosopher, if you will, author by the name of Napoleon Hill, and this guy was Andrew Carnegie's mentee. He wrote a book by the name of Think and Grow Rich, and this book essentially gives you, you know, all of the principles, the mental way of thinking for success. And one of those things that it talks about in great detail is called the Mastermind Alliance. And you hear, you know, a lot of successful people talk about it. In fact, you heard, I think one of Rick Ross's albums has a track called the Mastermind. Basically, the album is called Mastermind. But what that concept means is it means you're borrowing on the education, the capital, the experience, et cetera, from others, so that you both can actually achieve success quicker.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
My mom said this to me. She said, like, you'll get there quicker by yourself, but you'll get farther, saying, together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Saying, and like, like when I was rocking with the band and shit, like, saying I try to push it as much as possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, because like, I definitely feel that every artist that I listen to, it's a team behind them, you know, saying like they might make it appear as something else, you know, but there's always, like LeBron James, even like he was talking about how he's comfortable with getting with retirement because his wife has been holding it down. His kid's 13 now,
right?
Saying he's gonna retire when his kid is 18. Like, imagine like not really being around to do these great things that he's doing. You know what I'm saying? Hate on him as much as you want. You know what I'm saying? But like, he the GOAT, you know. But like, man, like those sacrifices that others make for you, and that's part of his alliance. Then he got his team that are doing the marketing for him and all that shit. Because outside of basketball, I forget that they said a crazy number last night what he makes outside of the game. You know what I'm saying? It's like why even play? You know what I'm saying? Like, and LeVon Bell, he's ready to retire. He don't need the money, like, because he got a good team behind him. But proceed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but that's the, you know, the premise of it, and you know, but it goes further than that. But one of the things I think that's valuable about, you know, our friendship, colleagueship, businessship, what have you, is that that we are so vastly different. You know, at first it took a while for me to accept that, but I was actually talking to. So the company, one of the companies that we're partnered with, their lawyer who handles like some of our contracts as well. We're in a conversation and I had told him, you know, more about Orrin and I, and he said, that's what you need in a business partnership. You need somebody who's going to be just the opposite from you, because you can have all bases covered. So in our case, Orrin, Orrin will never admit this, and I talk about him all the time about this, but Orrin has an extremely high IQ. Like, he is one of the smartest motherfuckers I've ever met. All right,
Genius.
He's a genius. Like, seriously, he's a quasi genius, and a researcher and etc. Like, just a great thinker. Not to say I'm not a smart person myself. I'm just a little different smart. So Orrin, So Orrin, Dr. O, is gonna stay in the studio and find out every single thing that we need to know about the business, about the music industry, what events are happening, etc. And I'm the person going out there building relationships. Like, I have no problems going out and meeting some random person and bringing it back to the table. So that that combination of personalities, it works well.
No, that's dope, man. That's dope. And you said 2016, 2012, 2016. So that's what, 7 years now y'all been rocking? 7
Yeah, knowing each other, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man. No, that's dope, man. Yeah. Cause those are the relationships that I'm trying to build personally. Saying to figure out what I'm trying to do next. Because cause I play classical music, and I enjoy it, but I don't love certain things about it. And performing is great after a while, but I definitely want to have some other shit outside of it where I can just cause I enjoy performing, but I just need something else outside of it, and I'm trying to build my alliance too. And I'm like, damn, why not come to you guys to see what the truth is? And so I see that you guys are doing movies. You guys are doing, working with different artists, and if you guys could work with anybody right now, who would it be? As far as is it a movie thing? Is it a particular artist? Is it a rapper? Is it a singer? Who would you want?
All the above. All the above. We want to conquer the world.
Yes.
But in terms of artists, I know Orrin has some.
You got a favorite one right now?
I think for me, maybe my top 3
that you would just want to.
I just want to just get in the room with. One is Camila Cabello.
All right.
The lead singer, one of the singers from Fifth Harmony.
Okay.
Also, I'm get in the room with Demi Lovato.
Oh yeah, she pretty.
Right.
And
Yeah, she's musical talented.
Nah, she talented too. No, I saw no. Nah, she killed
That's what
it.
you said, bro.
No,
So very strong.
No. Because I seen her before. Then I just saw her the other day on TV, and I was like, I didn't know she was that pretty. You know what I'm saying? And cause
she talks a lot about her body insecurities on.
I got a lot of friends that do the whole SNL and saying Jimmy Fallon, all those gigs, and they're telling me when they had performed with her, yo, she could really pipe it, she's not playing over there.
For sure.
I'm not. I didn't mean to take away from that, but she's a beautiful woman. You know what I'm saying?
I think my third would be SZA.
SZA.
Y'all saw her live.
Yeah.
But how do you
And that
feel
was-
about I don't know. I really, really love her older album a lot better.
Really?
I'm obsessed. The more sounds like it's influenced by Tori Amos. I don't know if that's intentional. But yeah, the newer stuff I feel is I don't like the direction as much. I might be alone in that opinion.
I like SZA,
But
yeah,
I'm obsessed with that first album.
Wow. And you feel that differently than, in addition to, the influence behind it, sort of I'm trying to dig deeper in terms of what you like about that.
I'm saying that it reminds me of the intensity of these songs that Tori Amos used to do in the 90s that were, I don't know, they're these feminine anthems that are full of emotions. This is just destined to fail.
Got a case on that?
No, it's durable. It's durable. The phone is not breaking. It's just the experience of people watching is very broken. Sorry, Mom. She's the only one watching.
Okay.
Does it work on the bottom?
Well, it would have to be retaped. But anyway, the point being that
Get on the microphone.
there's just a real I don't want to use the word rawness because
The microphone's more important.
Huh?
Talking on the mic.
Oh yeah. Because it's not raw musically. but there's like a rawness in terms of, I think, her emotions in it. The newer one sounds a little more contrived to me.
Now,
Probably similarly to like the lust versus love argument.
As a single man,
that we
like
have.
saying if I'm on a date or something and a girl starts singing "SZA" up in my house, I know I'm in trouble. You know what I'm saying? No, but I like her music though. I like her voice.
More than Cardi B?
Oh,
Cardi B is like the woman's anthem right now.
Listen, I went out with a girl. She was
SZA's the
singing like
girl's
Cardi
anthem.
B hard. That was one of the most expensive dates of my life. Fuck, I'm like, get some money. I'm like, wait.
Whoa.
Man, I'm like, what is going on? But yeah, that happened. Yeah, but yeah.
Well, okay, but why? Why are those the ones that you pick?
I think from a musical point of view, like they're all three amazing artists. I think just hearing what we do collectively in music, how our soundscape can definitely like be some amazing stuff, like some life changing, some like long lasting kind of music if we had opportunity to get in a room with them.
It sometimes it's the combination, like when Paul Pierce, Garnett, and Rondo got together. There was no stopping that shit. Kobe and Shaq, there was no stopping that shit. I'm not gonna bring Golden State into this. You know what I'm saying? But
Steph Curry.
Stop, enough.
It's like 5 more.
Enough. You know. But yeah, like the certain combinations is so I hear what you're saying. Like but you're more artist focused. Like there's like
No, I look at it from two different angles. I look at it from like the artistic angle, and I look at it from like the business angle. And we can make great music every day, every night, but if ain't no one buying it, ain't no one listening to it, ain't no one looking at it on YouTube, it's a pointless kind of thing. Like again, when we get in music, you get in music because you love to do it. Once you figure out that you're pretty good at it, and you see you can make some type of revenue from it, then you start thinking like, okay, here is my artistic side of my development, and here is my business side of my development. And in this music industry, you got to figure out what's good artistically and what's good business wise. And I think these three women, they definitely are showing you that, you know,
I'm about
they
the
can
bag.
All women.
I'm about the bag, baby.
They're definitely amazing.
Talk that talk, Orrin.
They're definitely amazing as artists, but at the end of the day, these records are selling.
Yeah.
You know,
Free.
Hand over fist. Yeah.
I'm for you, bro.
Yeah.
Shit.
What about you, Anthony?
Yeah.
You have like a top 3?
Oh man, that's a great question. I have to say Drake, of course. You know, like there are a lot of people that hate on Drake, but I think what he's
Ain't nobody
doing.
hate on Drake.
No, I know a lot of people that hate on
They
Drake.
listen to Drake in the closet. They're lying.
Yeah.
People hate on Drake all the time.
Yeah.
That's like a very popular thing to do.
Yeah.
I hate on Drake.
They're lying. All liars. They all have a Drake song. I thought I was a Kanye West hater. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I went. My boy's like, yeah, I got $25 tickets to the fucking Yeezus tour. So I said, all right, we going. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, I got you drinks, you know? And so like, he starts going through the catalog. And he's up there for an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. Probably like a half an hour speech. That's why I said hour and a half. I loved it all. You know what I'm saying? And like, he brought me back from the beginning when I first was singing them tunes to the end, you know what I'm saying? And the easy shit.
Yeah.
So like people front like they don't like somebody. People act like they don't like classical music.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, but how could you not like classical music when it's in all your cartoons and all your movies and all that? You know,
That's true.
The liars.
Yeah. I mean,
We're just unaware of like,
unaware.
yeah.
What do y'all think about, before you get to your, like, what do y'all think about artists who, like the landscape now is like you can get rich and like famous overnight of a viral video.
Lil Pump.
And some people who like I have this fame and acclimate, but like, you know, like maybe their live show, maybe they're just horrible on stage, but everybody's hype. What do y'all think about like that whole vibe?
The SoundCloud rappers. Yeah. There you go. I mean,
Yeah, I think at one point in time in music, you know, you have A&R, you know, you have artistic and representative. Like these people were the individuals in the 40s and 50s who would go search out and find someone A to sing the song and B to write the songs. Mm-hmm. So you think about like Frank Sinatra, never wrote a song in his life, but probably one of the most famous singers that we know in our lifetimes. Mm-hmm. And so I think then the early Motown, the early Stax Records, you had an artist who was gold, they could sing in the studio, but could not get on stage. And so what they had to do is like, I got to get this singer to be developed. And so they would take time. And I think now, with music industry is changing the way they make money, I think people now figure out like, well, I don't have time now to develop this kid.
Not at all.
So if this kid comes out with a record and I get 5 million 16, 17-year-olds who love it and they can't stop listening to it, I'm going to say to myself, I need to find this kid, I need to sign this kid. Because this kid just showed me that he can get 5 million views in 3 days.
I mean, that's what happened to what's the girl's name? Bad Barbie.
Bad Barbie.
Bad Barbie.
Her,
yeah, exactly. Like her. What's the other girl's name with the fatty?
Who?
China.
Black China?
Black is it Black China? She got a deal as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but once again, it's not. It's well, you know, yes, they're not singers or rappers necessarily.
Well,
but
I was
they
going to say
can
we could use them. Well.
That bad
you could use it. Yeah.
Bad Barbie track.
No, it goes hard.
whether-
It goes hard, but to what you were saying.
Like Bobby Shmurda, you could argue
Bobby
like
Shmurda's
why
the
it
truth.
would have worked, but got popular off of a video that went viral, right? And like 300,
Right,
like that whole thing.
But but to Orrin's point, what he was saying is like, you know, that
They
you
all
know
did it
you
that
don't
way.
want to spend time, you know, developing an artist. Like we heard firsthand from a guy. I'm not going to say the label, but we were sitting in a panel discussion and we asked him afterwards, like, you know, what are the chances of you looking at artists, you know, if they have, you know, 10,000 followers versus, you know, a million followers, and he's like, no, if they don't have any credible followers, we're not even going to look at them, you know, because it's not worth their time, you know.
So you think that's damaging now? Because like you said, people used to like search out talent. Like maybe they're like some dusty little talent show. They're like, oh snap!
I think-
Is there no chance for those kind of people now?
No, it's still a chance.
It's still a chance.
Well, yeah, I mean
The road is longer, but the
Yeah.
reward is greater at the end. Because the simple fact is like, if I've crafted my art over, say, artist A and artist B, artist A goes viral overnight. Artist B takes 3 years to get there. Artist B is playing a long game. And I think in the music industry, your objective is to play the long game.
Yes.
Like I went to see Jay-Z maybe like 3 weeks ago, and I'm listening, like
He's on
like
stage by
Chris says,
himself,
on
right?
stage by
Yeah.
himself, and he's starting from Reasonable Doubt all the way up to 444, and you see in a room, you say to yourself like,
You raised me.
Reasonable Doubt came out in 1996.
No.
1996,
we know.
I was in my second year.
I'm from the Northeast. It's different. So.
It was like my second year as a freshman, 1996 to like 2017. I've seen this gentleman go from like, you know, like being no one wanted to accept his record to now like getting going platinum in like 7 hours.
What's your favorite album?
Oh god.
I think my favorite album, if I had to pick one, I'd probably say the Blueprint 1 and 2.
Yeah, Blueprint.
Blue Boy too.
Hands down.
Yeah, I'm a Dynasty guy, and what else? What is Volume? What is it? 1 and 2? Hard Knock Life 1. I think it's 2. Saying the one with Too Short on it.
Yeah.
Saying I remember like just being on the train. This is when I first started smoking weed. And it's like I would listen to that shit, be so serious on the train, just like in my mind, just like listening to every single word that. And he was laying that shit down.
I think primary Nas
She
fans
loves Jay-Z.
like Blueprint one's the best, ironically.
Right.
It's got the discipline. But
Yeah, he's that dude. Yeah,
to transition into more like the actual work that you guys are doing, have been doing, and how you're approaching artists, like with and how you want to, like what your sort of mission is, you know, like looking towards like the bigger picture in the future for Velocity Music. Like, how does that tie into this whole concept of viral videos versus actual development?
Yeah, well, the same thing.
Are you doing any of that now with people?
So in terms of developing artists, we like to think that we're developing them musically, and we give them advice in terms of how to develop themselves, you know, via social media and stuff like that. But similar thing, you know, obviously we're not a record label, but we don't have the time or the resources to develop, you know, any artists. In terms of, like I said, the imaging and stuff. But in terms of the music, you know, we're working with, 7 artists right now?
Yeah,
7 artists right now, just producing their albums or EPs or just singles, so that, one, we can help them to thrive, but also spread the gospel of Velocity. But that's what we're doing in terms of that. In terms of working with major artists, you know, it's sort of an interesting thing because.
Well, could you give an example? Like, I'm thinking of I forget his name off the top of my head, but the person who was at your party that that I met.
Oh,
the artist that you're working
Sizzo.
with. Yes,
Yeah.
And you were telling me the story about how you started working with him, and he found you like in the neighborhood. Like, I'm just looking for somebody with a studio, and at first you were like, "Who are you?" Just approached me out of nowhere, and then you gave it a chance, and you realized like it was like a more unique sound, and so like is that what it looks like for other artists that you're working with who are maybe not as much of a name, or have you come to different people in other ways?
Yeah. Well, that is definitely a rare situation.
Okay.
Because I mean,
how did he find out about you?
Well, it was funny. Well, this guy JL Sizzo, he's a Dominican rapper singer. I was on the subway one night working on a mix, and he came up to me. He was just like, "Hey, man, I see you working. You look like you know what you're doing. I'm a rapper, whatever." And of course he's like, "Hey, can I get your card, whatever?" Of course, I mean, people come up to me all the time, like but only -1% of those people actually contact me. But yeah, he called the very next day, and he called again. He sent a text, and he sent an email, and I finally called him back, and he sent me his stuff. And I was like, okay, this is really good. And so for about, I'll say he kept trying to get on to me for about 4 months.
Oh,
and
shit.
And his persistence is definitely something that
I'm gonna give you 3 weeks.
yeah, of course. I mean, it's not like I was trying him. Not saying
But
that.
there must have been something about you that he was really drawn to.
I have no idea.
You don't talk about this
You're
stuff?
Southern Trump.
I have no idea. But that is a rare situation. Some of these other artists have been people that we trust. Really good friends of ours or colleagues of ours who have said, "Listen, guys, I know what you're doing over at Velocity. You need to check out this person." Or it's been a situation where we found people like Izima, the hip hop violinist that we work with.
Classical Bay?
Classical Bay. Shout out to Izima. I mean, she's doing great things right now. But it's a situation we used to see her on Facebook doing videos in her bedroom.
Yeah.
Or her living room, and we're like, oh shit, like she's dope, like let's reach out. So we hit her up and stuff, and then now we're producing her next album. So it's I say 90% of the time it's just people that we have found ourselves or people that trust us that send us their way.
But it's not just because of their following on social media.
No, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. But you gotta think about it. If someone has a good product, more than likely they're gonna have a high following. You might find that diamond in the rough that may have 5,000 followers, and it may just be a person like, oh, who is this person? And then you listen to more of their records, and you start saying, okay, this person seems serious. I mean, they got 5,000 followers, but you hear the quality of the music and say, okay, this person may be serious. Let me send that email, and then they take 3 days to respond. And you're like, okay, maybe that's why. Right? Because if someone's reaching out to you and saying like, I've seen your video, I think you're amazing. Here's what we do. You can check our music out. And they take their sweet time to get to it. It's like, you're not serious.
Yeah.
And then I think in this kind of field, it's
3
a
days?
line.
Wait, but hold on. Because I'm thinking, like, I don't know, 3 days, somebody reaches out to me, they send me things to look at. I want to make sure that I have the time to actually, digest it and give a proper
I think
proper response to it rather than...
Well,
I mean, maybe if it was, like, 3 weeks, but 3 days? I feel like
3 days. I think
it's a relatively good turnaround to like be able to digest it, look at your material. Also, probably you have a life, hopefully.
Yeah, but in the same thing, I was looking at like an individual. If you really want something, someone email you. Let's say something that you really want.
Talk, Orrin. These niggas ain't serious.
Niggas
ain't serious.
I remember an opportunity.
Don't you want your response to be strong, though, is what I'm saying. I would want to make sure my response was strong over quick.
I remember
Unless
this.
I already have
Here's
the
a good
job.
example. I had just started grad school in Nebraska. I started working on my doctoral degree, and I wanted to get a lesson with Winnie Marsalis. And he told me, he said, I want you to call this number, and you just keep calling until you get in contact with me. I called him for 6 months straight, same time every single day, never respond. One day I called him, it was on a Sunday. It may have been like October. I had been calling him since probably, late April. I called, he answered the phone. I said, what? I talked to him for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. He's like, yeah. I said, I want to come to New York and get some lessons from you. He said, all right, come to New York, come to Lincoln Jazz Center, get on the list to come back, and we could talk about it. Number one, I had never been to New York. Number two, I don't know what list he's talking about. So the simple fact is that I wanted this, got my ticket, found a way to get on this list to go backstage to meet him. I met him. The next day I had like a lesson with him. So the simple fact is that if I send you an email and you saying you want to do this, you need to respond to the email really fast. That's if you want to do it.
Well, we hear from Sharif Clayton that the best way to get to Wynn Marsalis is just show up at his doorstep.
But see, me, I didn't know. Sharif Clayton had already lived in New York. Here I am calling
Sharif Clayton episode was that 3 or 4?
But do you think that that's
Episode 3 or 4.
I mean,
one of those.
if he had reached out to you, right, and said check out this stuff, right, and sent you material, wouldn't you want? I mean, maybe you would respond right away and like acknowledge the receipt of it, but
and I think
wouldn't you want to have time to take it seriously?
But I think for a viewpoint, if it's something that I want, I've already researched it. I've already listened to Winton. I've already said this guy's the guy.
So you're saying like people reach out to you, then you respond, and then
Always not playing out here.
Yeah,
like they've already expressed the interest initially, and then
I get it.
Okay.
Like if you send me an email saying, "Hey, I'm the hottest rapper in Davenport, Iowa," and I'm gonna say, all right. The first thing I'm gonna do is go to Instagram. I'm gonna check out the numbers. Okay, then you got all those videos. So I'm listening to those videos. Next thing I'm doing is going to Spotify. I mean, technology keeps us together. You send me a message, and if my phone is linked to these messages, I'm walking. I'm trying to use every minute.
It's all some Black Mirror shit.
It's actually in my eyeball.
Yeah, it's in your eyeball.
Yeah. I'm trying to respond, because I know, like, people. I know how I feel to send someone something and feel like, damn, I just made a fool of myself.
Did they not get the taste?
Yeah, did not like it. So, in fact, if someone sends me something, I'm trying my best to respond.
Let me go check the punctuation.
Yeah, I'm trying my best to respond to them in an adequate amount of time to say, hey, I'm going to send this to my business partner, and if he like it, we're going to roll with it. If he got some hesitation, send some more music. And there's been times where they'll send me some music, Barfield listen to it, and we're like, and I say, okay, send me some more music. And he sends some more music, like, okay, you do have some talent. Right? And then we'll go from there. And I think the same thing for artists. We send some music to them, and they got a choice to decide, like, I like this music or I don't like it. And if they don't like it, hey, it was nice getting to know you next door, That's my viewpoint about it.
Yeah. It's it's definitely very fair. I mean, but to going back to your point about if we do look at the followers, yeah, it is very important as well. I mean, like I said, we don't specifically, look for those people, like, but
it's like
it
in the
definitely
instance
helps,
of like Sizzo, did he have a following?
You said Sizzo? No, it did not.
So that's why you maybe for a little bit like.
Well, actually, I didn't look him up online. I just, we had a whole bunch of other projects going on, so I just, once again, him being persistent, you sort of just, it's like, okay, let me just take a chance. It's just like an investor. Sometimes you may not necessarily know the ins and outs of his new startup company that's coming in, but at the same time, you may see a little potential there, so you invest in it, and there you go.
Because I'm thinking about you make the point, which I think is a fair point to make, that like a good following should indicate a good product, but I also feel like the lack of a following doesn't necessarily indicate a bad product. It maybe indicates like. Maybe you're not that good with marketing.
But I think when my mind reacts to it is like, if I see someone with like lower numbers but like amazing singer, I'm thinking to myself, we can seize the moment now. No one knows about this person. And this person's undivided attention will be striking to us. So therefore, we can just start building.
Right.
You think about like all the super teams and producers and singers. Like no one knew who Snoop was. He just started coming from nowhere, and then he drops an album. And it's like one of the greatest rappers in the world. And so I think if people again, for me, if I'm looking at numbers, I'm saying like, okay, they got 16,000 followers. What's the likelihood they're going to respond to an email? Well, if they see what we've done, they're probably going to respond to it pretty quickly. Then if I see someone who has like 6,000 followers, but their videos, amazing singing, amazing product, I'm saying to myself like, no one knows about this person. I think we should jump on this. Because that's like a person being in the stock market.
And maybe they're more focused on their craft than social media.
Right. So like for example, Bitcoin. People are laughing right now, but the very second
I ain't laughing.
But the very second when when the national banks decided that it becomes a value to them and they decide they want to jump on it, all those people who were laughed at that were looking at Bitcoin 2010, 2011, who've been buying portions of it, it's going to say the national banks will say no, we're going to accept it. But these people have been stocking up on Bitcoins. Now they're like millionaires.
Yeah.
So I think the simple fact is that we can't look at it right now with low numbers, but they may be a diamond in the rough and I think it's important to look at like high numbers because you see like okay, a lot of people like them. Low numbers, there may be something about this person that we can seize right now and jump on it right now before anyone else sees it. And if we can get it first, that person's more unlikely going to be loyal to you.
Only if they're a good artist, though.
If they're good
Only
artists,
if good.
yeah.
Well, of course. I mean, I'm not expecting that you're gonna like. My point is more about like that. Would you be deterred from working with somebody for having a low following?
No.
Because I assume you would be deterred if they didn't have talent.
Yeah, because you got to think about everybody's time.
Yeah.
It's like someone saying,
course.
I want to audition for something.
Yeah, you're not going to work with somebody if you don't believe in what they're doing.
Right, and you say, okay,
Yeah.
I want to play this gig, and you walk in and say, okay, here's some music, and you've been talking like, oh, I'm the best thing in New York, and then you get to the audition, and you don't even know what the scale is. You don't know how to put your mouthpiece in your instrument. It's like, well, you just wasted a lot of people's time.
There's so many people who say they
Yeah.
But the simple fact is that if someone says they hot,
I got this.
people in your city should know you. I know the great producer Il Mind says this all the time. He says, like, if someone called me on the phone and said, man, I'm the best rapper in St. Louis, and then I call my friend who's in St. Louis, who's probably like the best DJ, and you're like, hey, you know about artist A? And they're like, man, I never heard him before. That's a clear indication that you're probably not the best person. You perceive it in your mind.
Oh, you're very grandiose. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So
Right.
that's,
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of that out there
Absolutely.
in this field.
Absolutely.
So,
No doubt.
Anthony, did you ever? I don't know if you ever got to your list of dream.
Got my list.
Dream artist
Oh,
to work
you
with.
said Drake, and then we kind of cut you off.
Oh no, it's all good. Yeah.
Let's get back to that.
You got any other?
Yeah, I
besides
mean,
Drake?
I have a whole
Or do you
ton.
want to talk
but-
about why? Why Drake?
Yeah, well, why Drake? I think, listen, I think Drake is a great businessman. Like when he first started out, like of course he had his product, whatever. But now Drake finds a lot of the younger artists, to work with, to write for him. But they're all hot, like every one of them. So they keep him on a platform,
What's that new joint?
So, but also,
Who's writing for
Back
him?
it up. That new joint. Yeah.
who's writing for Drake?
I have no idea.
M.
Quentin Miller.
Quentin Miller. Yeah.
Quentin Miller.
I don't know if he's still doing it.
Yeah, and some other people that I don't know that I should know.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know.
But yeah, so but also once again, like I think he's just an interesting and innovative artist. He doesn't seem to be one.
He got a certain timbre to his voice too. When that,
yeah, of course.
When it hit the microphone, you already know.
But what I mean by that is
just
just his sound is current, constantly evolving to like the next thing, and then collaborations as well. He doesn't seem to be opposed to the idea of collaborating with Nicki Minaj to the next Trippie Redd or somebody like that, which he hasn't collaborated with Trippie Redd yet, but yeah, so that's the first thing. What's up?
He broke the Migos kind of in a way. Saying.
Yeah.
Versace.
And then the second person, I'd say SZA as well. Why? I think SZA, it's funny. So, record labels nowadays, they're being very thoughtful in terms of where the industry is going. And if you think about sort of where R&B used to be, somebody like even Marsha Ambrosius or who's any good R&B artist?
Right now, Daniel Caesar.
Yeah, well, no, somebody from the 90s or whatever. Sade, okay, Sade.
D'Angelo.
The people, yeah, exactly. Like the people in their like 40s now, they love that music. The people who are in their 30s don't really like it as much. So I feel like the people in their 30s, 20s, teens, they sort of gravitate to the new R&B style, which is like the SZAs, the Tony Remedis, the Kalanis, people like that.
Her.
Yeah, that's a great example. So
RCA's
what I like
holding it
about
down?
RCA, they're holding it down.
Yeah,
On R&B tip.
Absolutely.
But they both have her and SZA. They both in the same
This
label.
also has this like real underdog composition to her.
Absolutely.
I think like that's like really what her image is. A lot of her songs are really, speaking to like a segment of women. Like there's been a lot of female artists that are about that, like about being for women,
Right.
and about like strength. But she taps into this vulnerability and this section that I think hasn't really been explored in that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what attracts me to her.
Yeah,
And I think for a lot of girls, like that's what.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's what. Really
Yeah. So so the first two I mentioned, once again, they're sort of more on the thought-provoking, really artistic endeavors in the pop scene. But then lastly, I have to say somebody like Lil Pump. And people once again people hate on Lil Pump, but I'm telling you, like, there's something to be said about what I mentioned earlier about making people feel from the neck down.
Yeah,
and as long as you can get people to like, Lil Pump is crazy.
I was telling you earlier when I first came in contact with listening to his music. Just like I have my rap carrier on Spotify, and just the way he would come out the speaker, like, saying that shit would just bang, and like I just start, like, no matter how tired I was, saying, like, I would just wake up, and just be ready to drive.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about, like, I call them the littles, like everybody's a little. But when you think about, like, all these guys, you hypothetically say they're all like, let's say they're all like sophomores, juniors in high schools, at their age when they come out from rap at 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, starting with Lil Wayne.
Right. So you think about
yeah, Project Bitch.
The individual that says to themselves, all right, my homeboy around the block has a computer and he knows how to make music. My homeboy up the street has a camera and he knows how to film videos. And I got another friend who's like a wizard with the keyboard. Like, he can actually, like, get my music uploaded to like these things. So the fact that these guys are already thinking about this in high school.
Master Alliance.
Yeah, in high school we don't really talk about this with kids.
Yeah, you know Max too?
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah.
And Max was talking about, like, he's like, oh, Chris, these kids are graduating. Shout out, Show. Saying he talking about these kids are graduating with, like, 5,000, 100,000 followers. Like, kids, like, in high school now, like, and that influence you already have, like, going into things already makes you something. You
Absolutely. So those are artists, but then, you were asking earlier about sort of the global vision of Velocity. We want to do, movie scores. We want to do, Marvel comics. We already do, like, some corporate things, which is great, and then eventually getting sort of more in the video audio production stuff for, like, educational institutions and stuff like that
for the kids.
For the kids.
So your reach is really broad with that, which is dope. My question also is about like, is there, like, we talked to Rootstock Republic, for example, one of the episodes, and they have, like, a very strong mission that's tied to like an intentionality about what they're doing. Like, they want to create spaces that are specific for people of color to be successful within. And we stalk people before we do these things, and I was stalking your Facebook, Orrin, and you write a lot about things that are going on, like, in the news politically. Is that something that you think is going to mesh at any point with your business, or is it something that's maybe, like, something that's for you personally that you'll tap into, but it might be a little more separate?
No, I think at a point it will be an artist that would be the individual that's going to get on the mic and is going to say what they have to say. Okay. And that individual may be using our music. And I think, when I'm speaking on Facebook and Instagram, I'm speaking about, like, the things that are happening. I just think about, like, as an artist, you have the opportunity to, like, really say what you want to say without being filtered. Especially independent artists, they can get on the mic and say what they want to say, and not have to be doctored or be bleeped out by, like, the institution of the industry. So I think, our music in the future could be someone who may have current sounds, but yet are saying things that are happening in real time. Because I think the music has to be shifted with the people and what they're saying.
But it sounds like that would depend more so on the particular artist and less so on, like, what you're setting up, like, as a context with the business itself.
Yeah, I think it would be left to a particular artist, because the artist at the end, we may shift them to say, or not say, but shift them in the direction of the music, whether it be melody, whether it be harmonies. But I think at the end of the day, the artist is going to have to say what they want to say. You can't get a beat from Velocity or music from Velocity and go on the stage and start, saying, like, some really outrageous stuff, because then we're dealing with some other kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah,
slap you on my
But I just wondered if there was, like, I bring up Rootstock because that's, like, very much, like, in their mission. Like, everything they do is driven by that. And not to say that every business has to be that way, but I was curious if it will come into play at some point, or if it does come into play, or if it's something that maybe maybe you're a little bit more, like, behind the scenes in terms of your own personal I don't know, thoughts, morals, things like that. Not to
Yeah, I think
That's articulated a little bit weird, but
I think
you know what I mean.
subconsciously,
Black Lives Matter.
I think subconsciously, when I see artists who get on the microphone and speak how they feel about the things that are happening in real time, I think that's marvelous. But I think at the same time, I can write 1 million books, but if you don't go to the library and buy them or check them out, then my word is in vain. I think sometimes books may be too complex for people. So I think having an artist who can say what they want to say. You imagine having the production of like a little pump beat, but yet he gets on the microphone and he's speaking like Martin Luther King or Malcolm X.
You're talking about Kendrick now.
Yeah, I think in a sense, but even going further, then like because I think for Kendrick Lamar, he reaches a certain demographic, but I think for people like Lil Pump, if he came out the next day and started rapping about like things that are happening in real time, then we were talking about 14, 15, 16, 17 year olds.
That's what Kendrick is doing now.
But I think
I'm too old to know.
No. I heard you saying because like, I fucks with Kendrick, and like, but I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you saying like, I go straight to the shit that's bumping when I need to stay awake when I'm driving, or like if I'm getting ready from going out to the club. It's like I'm not putting on Kendrick.
But that's his purpose.
I'm not putting on J. Cole. But if I need to get right in my brain and shit, and get right with my heart and my soul, I might throw on some Kendrick, some Cole. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's something we talk about a lot. Like, who's this for? Like, who am I writing this for?
Who's the audience?
Yeah. We can go and start writing some music that only this group of people will listen to. But then you look at it from the left side of it, it's like, well, only these people are going to listen to it, and then we just missed out on the other mass of people. And
so there's like a flexibility in your reach and what your approach is going to be depending on.
Yeah, I think
sounds like it's more about like the actual craft than it is about something that's a mission underneath.
Yeah, I think subconsciously, if we had someone who wanted to go out and speak poetically, who wanted to speak historically about the times, I don't think we'd be opposed to that, right? I don't think it's something that you say, oh yeah, this person's gonna be on the microphone rapping consciously. Like, it's not like we're gonna turn them down if they're dope musically. And they're rapping like bars, hey.
But it sounds like it's more about like the dopeness of the music versus like thing like that. That's what I was just trying to.
Yeah, definitely. I just think like if it's
but
good
a lot
music,
can fit into that. I mean, you guys do. We were just checking out some of the things that you've done. I mean, there's a lot of things that seem like kind of more pop oriented, but also, I mean, I'm thinking about the kid that we were talking about before, Sizzo, and then his sound is real different, and then also doing the film scores and things like that. So that's you can fit into a lot of different contexts.
And that's it's this great thing about Pharrell. Like you have two types of people. You have the people who are, when he used this term, learned. Like that means that someone who went to school, maybe studied music, and you got the person who figures it out. The person who figures it out may only go so far. The person who's learned and also figured it out can be in a room with anybody. I think that's the people we want to be in a room with anybody. If you want to, if Hans Zimmerman calls us and say, "Hey, I need for you guys to finish the last cue of this movie," call us. If P Diddy calls us and say, "Hey, I need this track for." I don't know. I'm coming out with a new Ciroc ball. I need this fire hip hop track at 160 BPM, and we want to be the people that you can call because being a one trick pony in the 21st century, it's no possible you can survive in this.
Medicine.
20 years ago you could, but now,
Let me ask y'all a question.
That's a really good point.
I want to step back.
Out of the present.
I want to step back a little bit.
He said that he was a genius. He said
it.
There's a political
or dropping pills
orientation to that that's it's compelling.
Well,
that brings us into the. Oh, sorry.
No, let me finish this because I have to get this off my chest. I'm from South Carolina. You from Louisiana. You from Mississippi. Now the landscape. I don't want to talk about this. But talking about the musical landscape, let's just focus on just like hip hop right now. I feel personally like it's Revenge of the South. Like the South influence is everywhere, and there was a time, directly before this time, where people were hating on the South. Like people did not respect Southern MCs. The production, but now
it wasn't real back then.
Whatever. You can't listen to you, Jay-Z love it. But people, even the New York sound, like hip hop, it has that Southern MC, those trap drums, like it's everywhere. And like in the ATL is like
But see, I think the shift in that.
Dilla's dead.
Come on, Chris. I think the shift in that.
No, I'm a Dilla fan. I'm just saying that's why the South took over.
Yeah, I think the shift in that is like when you think about like hip hop. The way I look at hip hop, I think just like because I look at it like from from an academic point of view. So you look at hip hop. For so many years, the East Coast was running it, right? By the time we get up to like the turn of the 20th century, we get into the 21st century, like people can't sample anymore because now the laws are getting tighter. So what do you do then? Well, you got to go back to your keyboard. You got to go back to your drum machines.
Manny Fresh.
And then you go to your drum machines.
Manny Fresh.
All the producers at the point in time in the South were starting to figure like, well, if I produce this myself, I make the drums, I do the synthesizer, I do all this stuff here. Well, it's nothing that can be taken from me. And so these producers in the South, they start crafting their sound. So we get from like, you get from like Outkast, and then you get Outkast, but at the same time Nas is dropping his album, then you keep going forward. Outkast, Goody Mob, all these people are pushing forward. By the time we get to like the late 2008, now we got like a change in like from Goody Mob and Outkast. Now we got people like Waka Flocka, Gucci Man, and now they gonna start setting up a precedent. But now the East Coast is still kind of figuring out because now Pac is dead, Biggie Smalls is dead. And so all these
responsible for most of the sound.
And so all these producers now, you got your heavy hitters who are rappers no longer with us, but now you got people.
Now you got Waka Flocka.
And then you got people who are moving up, and then the producers like Lex Luger, 808 Mafia, they're solidifying their sound. And so now you say to yourself, well, it's a shift in tide. And from a business point of view, if I'm a rapper on the East Coast and I see that every song that comes out on the top 20 charts has that sound, you better believe that I'm going to go call 808 Mafia bars.
808 Mafia.
I'm going to go call Sunny and Digital. I'm going to call them.
I told you.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, we think about Cardi B's Bodak Yellow.
I got to take that out.
Right.
That's you listen to it. She's from the Bronx, but yet the music you hear, it sounds like
from the South.
It's from the South. I mean, right now in the South, it's running at the capital of the music. And there's no one can change or doubt that. That's what it is.
So how do you feel about y'all like?
It's not that surprising. Music is coming out.
Do y'all feel like pride in that? But I know you're always you're always aware of the landscape too. I feel good about it. I guess just from being an artist from South Carolina in New York, I'm just like, yeah, now what? Y'all splitting the triplets too.
I personally, I don't try to think about it. I don't try to be biased in that way. I mean, I think it's great to have Southern pride and stuff like that. But I think you said the key words. It's like it's very important for us to look at the whole landscape as a whole. You know what I mean? So that we can, I hate to say it like this, so we can make as much cash as possible in every different area that we can. Bags on bags.
Right.
Talk that talk.
It'll be difficult. Like we were still trying to make like the golden age of hip hop boom bap. If we were trying to make that right now, it'd be a certain group of people, underground people. Yeah, but you got to think about it. It's like if you had to make a list of all the rappers you consider that can get on that type of musical landscape, and then you make a list of all the cats who are either one hit wonders, the ones who are like really on like the different. Lists on Spotify, different lists on Tidal, the people who are selling records, the people who are getting all the YouTube views. You say to yourself, this is the sound that's happening right now. And it's not about, people say, well, it'll be unique. You got to have a unique sound. Well, you got to think about it. If I study a certain composer for so many years, then I start writing my own music, who do you think I'm going to sound like? I'm going to sound like that composer. Right. But at some point, the more I do my own writing, you're going to see me either evolve away from that and I have my own sound. And I think producers now, if you're going to make music, you got to get a good model, study it, deconstruct the music, find out the anatomy of the music, and then come back to yourself and say, okay, I see what works now. This tempo works, this key works, this drum sound works. And that's how we looking at it. We're not looking at it like, man, I'm about to come here and change this wheel. I'm going to make it a small circumference. A wheel is a wheel. Yeah, this car or that car.
You hear the new Migos stuff going on right now? It's like it's real popular, like more popular than before.
And I think that's the change because now we have like this breed of music called like future bass, and now we got people like Marshmello, people like
they sound like Bruno Mars to me.
Right, and like the sound, like you start mixing all the sounds together. Where it sound like trap, it sound like EDM, it sound like rap, it sound like hip hop, it sound like pop. It's like R&B, and then people get a taste of everything.
Because stir fry is my shit right now. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's not. I'm not sure if that's rap anymore.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
And I'm not
Right.
gonna sit there and disrespect them because they be running up on niggas. but honestly, I'm not sure that's rap, but I fucks with the track hard body. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Do y'all see music like? Do you see music becoming like a one world government and so like everything's just gonna be? It's gonna like all combine. Like even the country artists are gonna have like this one genre.
But it's already happening though.
Right.
I mean,
melting
like,
pot of music.
it's already happening. Specifically, what you're talking about. I mean, you man, I was in Illinois, somewhere in Illinois, sometime last year, and I remember driving the rental car, flipping through the stations, and I heard this country song, and it was just like, ring tractor, and then the next 4 bars was like, sound like a trap beat, but over something that was like country, country chords and guitars and stuff like that. So, but then again, like, you hear like, and not just with
There's cross influence.
yeah, absolutely, and not just
now.
musically, but racially as well.
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
fact that somebody like Wolfpack. Do you know?
oh shit!
I mean, if you
Ann Arbor,
didn't
right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
if you didn't see them, you would think, man, this is like a fucking black,
They're all black
black
brothers.
funk brothers from like New Orleans or whatever. But you look at them on the stage, they're college white
But
kids.
that's,
you know
is
what I
that
mean? So, like,
necessarily
yeah.
new, or is that? I mean, that since
But,
like music has been a big thing in America.
We touching on
that's
something
been a
right
thing,
now. So you can answer a question before I cut her off. My
yeah,
bad.
continue. Can you see your question? Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
something
No,
new?
I was just gonna say I don't know if that in and of itself, like different cultures like adopting different music outside of their, specifically outside of your race, like that's something that's been happening since like
Black people got to America.
since music became something that was like a thing of like youth and mainstream, like post jazz, like when rock starts happening, and like that's been happening, right?
Elvis.
Like that, like people having a sound that if you didn't necessarily hear them, you might think that they were one versus the other. Elvis is one way that you could look at it, but like also I'm just thinking about. You have a question that's burning. I can't finish.
No.
What is very? What is talking about ethos though?
I was letting him know. Just I got something coming at him. Like,
I don't know. I just feel like I'm trying to think of more examples, but a lot of them are not necessarily people that are famous. Like it's more like you think about like somebody that's a session musician or a voice on a track that you weren't necessarily sure who that or where it's coming from. I think that this has been a thing that's been happening since music has been something that's recorded and distributed. Like that's something that has been occurring, and maybe more so now it's like that actually different genres are influencing one another, so the sound is going to be there. But I don't know about like I think that's always been a thing, that you could take a music that's outside of maybe what's expected, and you could do that.
I agree, but I just think technology has just exponentially exploded everything.
Oh yeah, it speeds up the process.
There's been no time in human history ever that you could just instantly communicate with somebody. Mm-hmm. That is a huge thing, and like the middleman is just being cut out. Like it's a crazy time.
pray for the middleman.
Middleman can't take your 10% no more. Like nah. And it's also I feel like every time there's something like that, art finds a way to like be there and like make a statement. Some people are like, oh, it's like all this like, computer and stuff. I don't like all this produced stuff. But then they hear something that like does it well, and they're like, oh, well, okay, you convinced me. So it's an exciting time. I feel like, and also terrifying because there's way too many SoundCloud rappers. People clogging up the airways. So everybody can get famous, and.
Which is a blessing and a curse. Like
It's a
some of
blessing
that
and a
is.
curse,
Sometimes I think about that, and I think it's like, wow, this is really amazing the way that people have become connected, and that people that might not have had a chance, in the past can now get their chance. There's a plus and a down, a plus and a minus.
I think it's all pluses. I
think it's all pluses?
I think it's all pluses.
You don't think being flooded with potential trash is maybe a minus?
the fact that everybody has a voice, yeah.
Yeah, no, that
I
part,
support
that's
it.
the piece that I support. Yeah.
I support it all because I remember growing up as a classical musician, and people were like, rap is not music. And I like the fucking overflow of rap just shitting all over them right now.
Your kids listen to it.
Like,
Your children love it.
your wife fucks to it. You know what I'm saying? No,
My
whatever.
mom was watching.
Hey,
Oh my God.
ain't nobody listen to this shit. Trust me. Yeah.
Eddie's listening right
We
now.
coming out.
But hit Revolt TV.
No. Like what we were talking about earlier, though. I wanted to know what y'all felt about the success of Post Malone, G-Eazy, and
White rappers?
yeah, basically Macklemore,
Jeez, white.
and like
Yeah,
I didn't
right?
know that shit.
Yeah.
Well, that one song that I know, is he even on it?
oh yeah,
Did he produce it? He doesn't rap on it.
It's
There's no G-Eazy verse.
No limit,
Is?
no limit.
Where is
There
his
was
verse?
like 3 of them.
No, those are
Yeah.
hooks.
No,
He doesn't
no,
rap.
Set the city on fire.
No, that's ASAP.
That's Ace. That's not ASAP.
ASAP's on the chorus.
ASAP's just the chorus.
Yeah, I
Wait,
think-
that's
sound
not.
similar.
They sound real
They're
similar.
Yeah, we're wasting time right now.
But-
Well, let's talk
Post
about
Malone-
how
how do y'all feel
how
about that?
G-Eazy is
How do-
trying to sound like
No,
ASAP Rocky.
how do y'all feel about
Post Malone. Let's focus on Post.
no, because
Post Malone thinks you can't cry to rap
please,
music.
please.
Sorry.
No, every album that Eminem has dropped, besides this one, I'm not sure if he's gonna get a Grammy on this one.
He will.
You know what I'm saying?
'Cause it's
But these white rappers are very successful. Iggy.
Well, I think Macklemore is a really good example of that
Macklemore,
because of how much
how he
recognition he
beat
got the
Kendrick,
same year as
Machine Gun Kelly,
as-
you
yeah.
name it. Like,
Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
Well, but specifically Macklemore the year of Doom.
I'm curious, is that like something, is that, of course they gotta be good, but is that something that producers are looking for, like a white artist in the hip hop
They can
field?
just sell.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think it's a good question.
Because it's definitely lucrative.
Oh, absolutely. But at the same time, I mean, I think I speak for both of us. We don't necessarily specifically look for race in terms of artistry. We just don't. I mean, and I think we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we did. Because once again, anybody, like what we're talking about, like you were saying, it's just the dawn of time or whatever. People have been great artists in whatever way, and I think if you
If people mimic what they like.
yeah, absolutely.
And if
but
you do it well.
absolutely.
they
But if
do
you
it.
focus on the racial thing, it's just you're getting into areas you don't want to.
Yeah, I have to say, I saw a show recently. I missed Ty Dolla $ign because I was in line, but it was Ty Dolla $ign, SZA, and Post Malone.
Okay.
SZA went on before Post Malone. I'd never seen any of them live. SZA had like a band, and it was like keys, drums, bass, and they played with a track, and she was dope. Like she could sing live. It was dope. Everybody knew the songs. It was cool. And then Post Malone got on. I didn't know what to expect. I'm just like, it's Post Malone. Yeah, I like some of his songs, but man, he killed it. I don't know if his sound guy, he was singing. He was like there for the audience. He did address all that stuff on stage, he's like, yeah, people talk about their cars, but they don't got them. Jews, they don't got them. So, but at the end of the show, I was like, man, that was amazing. And I had this whole preconceived notion of him, and I was convinced after that at least that I could give him a chance, even though maybe he might be a culture vulture. I don't know the guy, but he seemed like his persona on stage was it seemed genuine, and I see where he was going. He's like, oh, he had me play the card I don't have the perfect body, I'm just a normal guy, he's smashing beer on stage, and people love it. It's like, oh man, he's just one of us,
Make America great again. Now I fucked with Post Malone, but
I think
the
if we,
shit he said threw me off for a second.
yeah, I think when we look at, people say, well, I'm looking at, if we just go back, and you say, okay,
The product first.
yeah, let's say the first Caucasian group, let's say, go back to the Beastie Boys, all right? And you say to yourself, the Beastie Boys.
Macklemore goes.
And Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, so you go back here.
Put Macklemore Vanilla Ice in the
Not been around that
So
long.
you go back to the Beastie Boys, and you gotta say to yourself,
Beastie Boys.
who were they running in real time with? So in real time, they're running against Run DMC, they're running against LL Cool J, so they're running all the people who were considered Def Jam, right? So you got a producer named Rick Rubin, and he's figuring out okay, well this rap thing is working out. We got this new rap thing is happening out. Then you have Russell Simmons is saying like, we don't like pop music, we don't like Michael Jackson, we don't like Madonna. So they gotta say, well, we gotta figure out how we're gonna make good music. So Rick Rubin said, hey, well, got these white guys from Boston, they rap. Okay, let's see what they do. So you got this market of people who like punk rock, who kind of like rap, and
They want something a little safer.
And they want something that feels a little bit safer. So you say to yourself like, well,
also subject matter and stuff.
right. And so you say to yourself like, well, if I'm a punk rocker, you got to think about like the people, the Lower East Side when hip hop was first coming out, like the early 1980s, when Grandmaster Flash would go spin records in the Lower East Side. Well, they were spinning records. They were playing like the Beatles. They were playing like the Monkees. They were playing all these various records. The punk rock people were like, this is pretty cool because they kind of like us. We're kind of like outsiders because in the 1970s, the most popular music is disco. So either you rapping in the Bronx or you're punk rock in the Lower East Side. You guys are already the outsiders because disco, you dressing up fancy, you're doing coke, you're doing everything to be a part of it. And so when we get to like the 1980s, these punk rockers start listening to this rap, and people start saying like, "Oh, this is pretty good music. Let's see how can we combine it." And then you got Run DMC will rock this way with Aerosmith. And so the simple fact that a lot of people
Run DMC does that a couple times with like rock box, just like that the concept of using rock.
Right. A lot of people oppose it. You got the purists who say Run DMC didn't need to have a white act to make them popular. They were already popular. One of the first rappers to actually get like a major contract
But
signed.
worldwide shit, they get
Worldwide.
Well, Aerosmith is also not really a punk band. They're like they're pretty
rock and roll, but it's in the fact
famous and
that Run DMC was pretty big already. This is like 1985, and they say to themselves. But I think with white artists, I think it's a rarity. You got the Vanilla Ice, then you got the next person that really.
Well,
be
Vanilla
big.
Ice eventually.
Yeah,
had a hardcore band.
Right, and then you got the first big rapper, Eminem. But you got to say who is he associated with. So his name is connected to Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre stamps that. Now, if let's say Eminem had a no-name, quote, white producer or black producer from Detroit,
we didn't have known him.
we wouldn't have known him. But since Dr. Dre had already cleared the way with NWA, already cleared the way with Snoop Dogg, now he's about to get this new artist that he heard in a rap battle. His name is stamped to him. And then we say, like, we got the Macklemores, we got the G-Eazy's, we got the Post Malone. I think for them, they're trying to be things that they've seen when they were little, right? What were they listening to as little kids? And some of the fact is that they are trying to do this music. And I think, you got Macklemore who beats out Kendrick Lamar. That's like from a different kind of scope of thing. Whether it may be political, it may be the people who are voting at the Grammys. A lot of people were kind of upset like this album was probably better, but like, who's to say it's better? You have black fans who say,
Come on. Wait, come on.
No, I'm not saying.
Come on now.
I'm not saying my personal view of the Kendrick Lamar album is better, but the simple fact is that we're talking about if I like something versus if I don't like something. So we say.
Well, I don't think Macklemore's album won that year. I think it won for best hip hop, right? I mean, Kendrick should have won best album.
But we get into the conversation like hip hop is started by African Americans, and then we say to ourselves like these so-called white artists to win this competition. But you say, well, the first hip hop artist to win it is like Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff in 1989. This is the first time rap is actually introduced to the Grammys, and so people are like saying like, okay, now we have a competition, and then like a couple of years later, now we have a white artist winning it.
Personally, I feel like Kendrick should have won Album of the Year over Taylor Swift. I really feel that way. Like, I feel like that was the Album of the Year.
Right.
Like, the best album that came out that year. I've heard the Taylor Swift,
but I think it's
good. Should have been nominated, I guess.
But we're talking about something that's a little, because music is music, and I think it's a little bit more deeper than me saying who won, because you got to think about these institutions and how the things they build upon.
No, you're right, and that's my next point is about how Macklemore, I think.
My bad. I done lost the question.
What? I can't have this point.
Bad.
Can I have this point, Chris?
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just, and this is me, Lindsay, speaking. This is a personal opinion. I feel like Macklemore is very attractive to that sort of a situation in terms of the type of rap he's putting out, because it's
Suburbia?
like there's a suburbia to it. There's these like songs about shopping at thrift stores, even though probably maybe you had money anyway. Like I am white, so I grew up in that, and I can hear it in it, right? Like I can hear it when I'm listening to it, and I especially like that year is the year that he came out with that song. I forget what it's called. Maybe somebody knows. but where he's basically like trying to empathize from the perspective of somebody who is gay,
Oh, yeah,
which he is
yeah,
also
yeah.
not.
Right.
So, and this was something that like really blew up. And
That song.
I listen to that song and I don't
That
think
was
it's
a big.
a good, I
That
don't
was
think it's a
big.
good song.
That was big.
I think it's boring.
Yeah.
I think, and I can say that with saying that there are some songs that Macklemore has put out that I think are good musically. Like I mess with.
Could you name one, please?
Downtown, I think is like I get why that's. I think you could say it's corny, but there's like there's some catchiness to it. But that particular song that got
It was-
a lot of fame
Ryan
was not a good song.
Ryan was his producer. What's his name?
Ryan Leslie?
Ryan Leslie
Yeah.
is his producer.
On that song that I'm talking about,
The album.
or the whole thing.
Yeah, right. No?
But anyway,
I don't know about the
my
whole
point
album,
being
no.
that like I think
I'm
that
not sure.
there's a safeness to having
I thought
a
it-
person who
They
is
gotta know.
who is white and straight rapping from the perspective of somebody that's gay, and then that was like a song that won an award, and
That's
it's
how
like why is
America
this
works,
not a song about being gay from the perspective of somebody who actually
Is gay.
is gay?
Well,
Like why is
that's a
that?
whole,
And
like-
that's and so yes,
Because-
that's the
To
dynamic
be on
that
some
I
crazy
think is
shit
there.
right now because he's a white male and white males fucking like Caitlyn Jenner. I got in an argument the other day about this shit. Fucking like, it's the same shit from the Dave Chappelle shit. Like Dave Chappelle was saying, like, say if you're a white male, you the fucking ones that fucking decide fucking everything in this fucking country and fucking.
Hey, let it out.
Say it with your chest.
I'm on that road say right now.
I think
Yeah, and that's why I don't get mad at like I try not to get mad at like some of my white male friends and shit, like cause like I know that they're the ones that they fucking decide fucking everything.
Well, not
like you-
your white friends are not the ones that decide. I mean, it's more
I know,
abstract than that.
but, like,
But for instance, like
I don't ever set that.
look at the civil rights movement in like the '60s, right?
It's crazy.
It's
shit.
just it's such a weird situation
I never thought
because
about that example.
we try to
till
uplift
now.
ourselves like as black people or whatever,
We
but
talk
when we
about
need
that.
help, we need like in order to get to the institutions, we need white allies.
We don't need help, man. The Black Panther movie is showing that shit right. I mean, is that the name of it?
We gotta have people on the side, man.
Yeah.
Are you even in it?
No.
Wait, let me finish my point. Because, wait a second.
You've been
You
seeing
on that road,
it.
man. Hold on a second. Look, I'm just saying that in any change that wants to go on,
Yeah.
like you need the help of like people who have a
Others.
common cause. The Jewish community, like how much help do we was alliances
Alliance.
because look, as Black America, let's be real.
We gotta
like,
pull it in.
We don't own no land. We don't have like that power and position.
The weapons you
And
said.
we don't have no nukes. That's already been. But we gotta. This black people have had to move smarter. You know.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Martin Luther King thing. He said we all gotta come together for a reason. Like Malcolm X was more of like the sentiment. Like man, it's like fuck. Let's just go fuck shit up.
You're simplifying everybody.
I'm simplifying it very, very much. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying that in terms of getting a voice, yeah, it's kind of messed up that Macklemore had to be the one, but he reached further.
Hold on.
You know what I'm
hold on.
saying? That's
let
like
me just because we got to bring it back to velocity
Let me
music because
motherfuckers-
that's what we're interviewing. But I just want to clarify. Like I don't. It's not about like I have no problem with. I mean I'm a white person who has loved hip hop for a long time. Like that is not what it's about. It's not about like not being cool with allies or not being cool with like people messing around with something that they feel passionate about that maybe wasn't created for them. It's more about the fact that like I'm not mad at Macklemore for writing a song from the perspective from a gay person. I'm mad that that one album, hip hop album of the year, because it was like people,
But this has
whoever is
happened-
making these decisions
this has
was like,
happened
this
throughout
one
history,
seems
though,
very conscious,
right?
and it's been a problem throughout history. I'm not saying it's new.
Elvis?
I'm just saying, yeah, I'm saying that bothers me. That won. I'm not mad at Macklemore for creating it, or
Okay.
you know, it's about, especially during a year when there was like an obvious should have like this is like the best album in hip hop that's come out in a long time. That's
Let
had
me
that
ask you,
big of an
do y'all think
impact.
that will ever change though? Velocity. Do you think that will
It
change?
should
the
have
future,
changed that year.
That people can actually
Yeah.
You guys gonna change?
represent themselves instead of having a middleman.
I think if you look at the Grammys, I mean, the people who nominate, you have a committee. If you have a committee, let's say we got a committee with 8 people, and 8 of these people are, let's do a fair ratio. 2 are African American women, 2 are maybe European women, 2 are white male, and 2 are African American males. Right? Then you gotta figure in the room who's
they do it like that over there?
You know what I'm saying? Hypothetical. I'm just giving a hypothetical thing. I'm saying to myself, if you got those 4 people, and so you got 2, in simple terms, you got 2 of each, and they get to decide a voting factor. They got a list of albums. They say, okay, here's this album, this album, this album, this album, this album. The first thing you have to figure out is who do these albums speak to? The African American women in the room that say, well, I like SZA, I like Kalani. I have a daughter, she listens to this music. Then I have the African American males. I like Kendrick Lamar because everything he's saying, I actually grew up in South Central myself, so I knew what he's talking about. Then I have the European white males and European white women. I have no idea what they're talking about. I don't know what this means, I don't know what this means. But I can relate to that from Macklemore. I can relate to that from G-Eazy. It's from the perspective of what you can relate to. It's not because I don't like it. It's not because I can't use it. It's what I relate to. If you think about when white kids were listening to NWA, you got to better believe it that their parents are losing their shit, saying like, you never lived in South Central. You never been in a gang before. You never smoked crack before. You never did these things that the rappers are talking about. Whether it be true or whether it be fictional, the simple fact is that you can't relate to it.
Absolutely.
And now I have an opportunity to have an artist who looks like me or potentially who behaves like me. Now I have a voice in this thing that I like. And so now I feel closely connected to it. Now when they win,
And when Eminem came out when I was a kid, it was crazy. It was just like that. You explained it.
like when they win, it's not because that, okay, you say, well, this was the best album. It's because the people in the room who are voting. Now, if you got a room let's say you got a room that's the whole entire voting cast of 8 people are all African Americans. It could be biased. It could be biased. You could say, well, it could be one person that say, I really like this Macklemore album. Everybody in the room, the other 7 people are like, come on, man. It's 7 against 1. No matter how you feel about this 7 against 1 is going to outvote your tally. But when you're in a room with equal shares of people, then the same thing could be said like, well, she likes it, he likes it, he likes it, she likes it. And then they listen to the music from the perspective of how they feel about it. And I think we'll have a better voting system compared to like one weighted room where it's 6 white males in a room, maybe 1 brown woman, maybe 1 white woman. They don't really get a vote because still it's 6 against 2. Even if they decide,
they should be aware of these different nuances that are present in the field that they are being selected to make a decision on. I mean, you get somebody like Eminem and a group like BC Boys. Like these are people that are like the subject matter of what they're speaking about. I don't listen to that and think like that's not authentic, right? Like that's a big thing about Eminem. I mean, he's intense, but he's speaking about his own experience. But that specific track that I'm talking about that I think maybe was part of the influence of that album winning, because I think it also got nominated for other things. He isn't talking about his own experience, and he's getting all of these like props for being somebody who's saying these things.
But you gotta ask yourself like, what is too much? What is too much for a voting cast to say like, this is over the bar? He's talking about something that, it's like a rapper comes out tomorrow and say, talks about suicide, but in a negative way, not talking about it in a positive way. You gotta ask yourself, as an industry manager, a CEO,
well, that's happening now.
You gotta ask yourself, what's too much? What's too much for society to listen to?
I don't know.
Every single day, I'm desensitized when people are dying. I'm desensitized. So if I walk down the street and saw someone getting shot, I may be frightened for a moment, but since I'm being desensitized to it, I gotta say to myself,
we're gonna see what happens this year with Exo Tour.
We'll find out. But then again, if you have more of something being voted for the deciding factor, of course, it's like it's a numbers game. If I have 100 people in a room going for something, then it's more of it being simply like a numbers game. And if a person has a person has the right numbers on the voting committee, then of course that person's going to win. And then I don't think it's about black and white. It's about like I get to vote. You think about it every single time. We saw it in our election. We think about like if these many people go vote and these many people say I'm not going to vote for it, the numbers win, despite however we feel. Once the numbers are counted,
I ain't worried about
that's
Trump
over with. And
I think next election.
And I think for the Grammys, I think for when we see like the so-called white artists, or even how Beyonce got beat out by Adele. I mean, people thought like everybody thought like the formation.
You understand it? You're saying?
I understand it. It's not. I don't look at it about it being black and white. I'm looking at it about like who's in the room deciding these votes, who the majority shareholders.
We about to close the shit up real quick. But like one thing I noticed from the guests that I keep on bringing over here. And like what you're talking about, you understand. You know what I'm saying? So you're at peace.
You got to be. It's too much happening for you to be.
You're at peace. And like what has fucked up my shit, you know what I'm saying, personally, is like I let like negativity slipping all the time, you know? And that shit fucking takes up at least 4 or 5 hours a day.
Drive you mad.
Saying that's a lot of time. Maybe
maybe
that long. Maybe it's like 2 hours.
20 hours.
We exaggerate, you know what I'm saying?
I think what Chris is trying to lead into is like our final thing that we probably want to focus on is like what do you guys do individually?
No.
We
What,
didn't do that yet.
no. Where I was going was I let that negativity slip into my mind, and that slows me down, makes me stagnant. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not able to progress as fast as I want to because I'm thinking about the bullshit. You know, but like I'm listening to you talk the whole time, and I'm just in amazement because you've done the research, and like that's why you're at peace. You know what I'm saying? And you're able to make the moves that you're able to make. You know, and like on the road over here, I'm like. Because I know Anthony, you know what I'm saying? I know Anthony. I barely know you, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, we got to make sure we get some time with Orrin and shit. And like, I'm just like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? You over here spitting this knowledge over here, bro. And I've always been impressed by Anthony from the fucking gym photos. We gotta
be more explicit because the listeners
wait a second.
actually don't know what you're referencing.
Yo, when I first met Anthony was fucking thin as fucking shit. This nigga is jacked. Nigga like fucking Black Panther and shit. Saying, watch out for this nigga in the streets. I was always impressed with Anthony because from trombone to composition to jerking on Juilliard through velocity, trying to get out of Juilliard, being back in Juilliard, still doing velocity. I'm like, motherfuckers chasing so many bags, you know what I'm saying? Always been impressed with Anthony. I already knew what I was going to get from Anthony, you know what I'm saying? But like, fucking Orrin, you really showed me some shit today, man, and I appreciate that shit, you know? And like, one of the questions that I usually ask that we never even asked today is like, what motivates y'all? But we ain't got time for that question right now. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got time for that.
Let's do it quick.
We gotta go.
1 minute each?
No, it's been like 2 hours maybe. You know what I'm saying?
1 minute each.
1 minute each.
All right. So tell me who motivates you, and then the last thing I need from y'all is like I need you to give me some medicine. What would you give for advice for people? What pushes you so you can push other people? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what the whole thing is essentially all about.
I think what motivates me.
Who, like artists or whatever. Tell me. Let me stop cutting you off. Do you think?
I think what motivates me, it's not particular artists. It's the historical legacy that we have as people creating music. And you look back to music where you
talking about like African Americans as a whole, or just like
I think for me, more so African Americans. You think about all the music that we have as people in America. It's all been created by African Americans. I mean, there's
American music.
American music.
Talk.
American music is being ran, or the music around the world is being ran by Americans. And the way I look at it, me being a teacher and being an educator, I would try to tell my kids, like, the music that you like and enjoy, the music that your parents may dislike and don't enjoy, it's created by African Americans. We can go all the way back to the beginning of ragtime, the beginning of jazz, the beginning of rock and roll, the beginning even EDM. You know, you say, what is EDM? Well, it's four on the floor. Well, four on the floor comes from disco music. It comes from Chicago house music, Detroit house music. Without those people in their bedrooms trying to pay their rent, you know, that's what a house party is. I'm going to have a party to pay my rent. And these guys in the late 70s, 80s making this music, to now we have, you know, multi-billion-dollar companies who base their commercials, who base their advertisement around this music created by these people who consider to be less people in society. And I think that's what motivates me. Every time I sit down at a blank screen and computer, I'll say, damn, well, Robert Johnson sitting in his porch with a guitar and not know what to do. Miles Davis sat in this hotel room trying to figure out how to play these changes. You know, I think about these things. I think for anybody, I guess like a last statement for anybody who's trying to get into this, you got to be focused, you got to study, you got to be serious, because it's a long line of people who want to do it, and if you're not serious, you can just get out of line and have a seat because there's someone who can do it.
Answer your emails, motherfucker. Stop bullshitting out here. You talking that talk, but you ain't about shit. OM.
Wilson, Dr. O. Dr. O.
Doc.
You're gonna be able to follow that up?
Talk.
No, listen, I'm not going to follow up. Guys, I'm not going to follow up with anything that intelligent. I will say,
Stop it.
but for me, what motivates me is a spiritual, more of a spiritual level. Is that out of the universe or God or whoever you decide that is that higher being for you. For me, is the universe. The universe chose me and Orrin and you guys to be those people who are trying to make change. You know what I mean? Like, and not just trying to make change, like actually being diligent about being out there. You know, this Medicine Cabinet podcast, you guys are interviewing people who matter, who are trying to, who are, you know, think about the deeper meetings.
Real quick, I'm gonna let you go on.
Yeah, why you call me on? You let Orrin talk. Why the fuck you ain't gonna let me talk, man? Come on, man.
Damn,
What the fuck, man? Come on, man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what the fuck is you talking about? It's like, man, it's like that shit is trash, nigga. I'm just fucking around. I'm just fucking. No. But yeah, you know, it's sort of the fact that we're chosen to do this. You know, like every morning, you know, I wake up and I have this wonderful gift that has been bestowed on me to create music. You know, and it's such a humbling, really humbling feeling. So I'll leave it at that in terms of what motivates me. There's more. Actually, no, I will say one more thing. So I grew up on a farm. I think I told you guys this.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I have an uncle that basically sort of, you know, they were like cousins, boys that came in pairs of two. You know, I have cousins that are 8 years older than me, then there's 4 years, and then there's me and my cousin, and then there's a couple bit below us. And he would actually take each of us, the pairs, and make us work with him earlier on, you know, by building fences, hauling hay, building on the people's homes, like doing all this random stuff. And to learn that at an early age created in me this very strong work ethic. And so having that and having a person like that in my life, that, you know, that took the time to teach a little kid that it, you know, is such a valuable thing. And so, you know, that to me, my uncle and that experience motivates me. And I'd say definitely to Orrin's point about, you know, sort of, you know, what, you know, younger people would have to do to make it is, you know, you got to be very, 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 very hardworking. But I will say, and this is sort of to your point, Chris, about you sort of, you know, letting the negativity, you know, take over your psyche and everything. You can't do that shit at all. I'm going to say it like it is. Do not do that shit at all. You got to stay clear-headed. You got to make sure that you keep your mind focused on the things that you want and off the things that you don't want. Because if you keep your mind focused on the things that you don't want, it's just a waste of fucking time. Sorry to say that. But you got to be very positive about what you're doing. So there you go.
Yeah.
Medicine.
Now, I want to thank you guys for coming out. I want to thank Lindsay and TJ, but especially Velocity Music. And yeah, man, I learned a lot. I felt like I've grown, you know, personally. I hope y'all listening have grown too. Do you guys have any plugs y'all want to do as far as Instagram or like Facebook or anything, social media shit you want to follow y'all on some shit?
What up, Mom?
Hey,
yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at Velocity Music Inc. Facebook, you know, either one of us, Anthony Barfield or Orrin Wilson. On Twitter, same thing, you know, Velocity Music NYC. Yeah.
Yeah, look out for the movies. Look out for the tracks.
Bam.
Saying they out here coming. They ain't playing around with y'all. Medicine Cabinet Podcast. You know where to find us at. But shout out to Sean again. Shout out to Trevor saying we got nothing but love for the team. Saying Master Alliance is what we learned today. Saying that's the main shit I took apart from this shit. And like Orrin, like half y'all niggas ain't serious out here.
Level up, niggas. Level up.
Answer emails out here. Stop bullshitting. You know what I'm saying? Orrin ain't playing out here. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. But all right, we'll catch y'all the next one. All right, peace.